Hi, welcome back everyone, and this week's episode is the business end of the plane. We're on to the front end and we're going to start off with the nose block, which is essentially made up of 5 pieces. Remember the old magical T? That applies again, so make sure each piece has the T to the top and don't forget your tiny little bit at the top there. So line all those up, and while the glue's still wet, use a lollipop stick or perhaps a drill bit, something like that just fits inside and lines each of the plates up, and then do your actual square block, which is going to fit on the back of the nose block. So again, just glue all them up, squidge them together, line them up with your lollipop stick, and then wait for the 2 pieces to dry. Then take the square block and offer it up into the square hole in the front of the fuselage. Now this is going to go straight in like magic. Obviously it didn't quite do that off the bat, but just tickle it with a little bit of sandpaper or like one of those nail files, and just keep taking a little bit off each side till it's a nice, not a tight fit, but you don't want it to be too loose either, so just keep tickling it until you get it to just pop inside nicely. Now then we're moving on to what they call the spinner backing plate, which is made up of 3 pieces. Now the little centre bit does pop out at the end of this assembly, but for me it popped out before I even got it off the sheet. So I had to then, it's quite important because it centres the propeller, or the spinner as they like to call it, and I had to glue it back into place because that's where the rounded end of the propeller sits whilst you get everything lined up. So put the first 2 plates together, glue them together, and then once you've got one of these 2 split plates fixed in place, off the propeller up to it, push the second half of the object up against the propeller, and once you're happy that you've got them square and central, then you can glue the propeller in between the 2 blocks, using the little round end to sit in the centre, and just ensure that the propeller is as square. It's very difficult to do it with an angled blade, but you want it to be as square to the nose block as possible, otherwise it's going to run out of true when you start spinning it. Now then, the next little bit is we're pushing our wire hook through the whole assembly, and you've got to try and form this right angle in the wire, which is going to engage with the propeller. Now it takes a little bit of doing. It's not an easy because you're holding onto a very fragile piece of balsa wood and you're having to swing on this wire to get it to bend, so it's slowly keep nudging it a little bit. When you get it right, then you can nip a bit of the excess wire off with your wire cutters, and hopefully you've got everything in and square and nice and fastened down. The nose cone is a really funny one. I watched a few different videos to see if I could get my head around this one, because I had 2 goes. I had to order a new one from the Vintage Model Company, which is relatively cheap, I think a couple of quid or something. But the reason I had to go down that road is the videos I watched, and I'm going to show you there, said make your first cut as a straight up and down. Now as soon as you do that, you've effectively ruined it, the nose cone, because the propeller runs at 2 parallel angles running across. So once you've made a straight up and down cut, you're automatically going to have a big gap. It's very difficult to show it on here because of the lighting's not that fantastic. But yeah, I'm trying to show with my finger that the line goes straight down and the propeller goes away from the straight line at an angle. So essentially I tossed that one in the bin, that was no good. And then once my new replacement arrived, I decided that the cuts need to both be at an angle. You've got to try and gauge the angle of the propeller blade and then run 2 parallel cuts to the height of the blade. It's very difficult to explain, but if you can gauge the height of the blade, you know where to mark the top point on the cone and then run 2 parallel lines down from the mark at the top of the propeller to the open end, and run your knife down and cut two parallel cuts at an angle. It's quite difficult to explain, but do not run a cut straight down, otherwise you're going to end up with a massive gap between the underside of the propeller and the nose cone, which is not a pretty sight, and it's not very secure or strong either. So try the technique of gauging the angle of the propeller blades and try and mimic that angle with 2 parallel cuts running down from where my finger was then to the open end. I hope that helps. It's very difficult to explain that one, but hopefully once you've done that you can just put some of your super glue around the balsa wood edge. Try not to get super glue on everything or you'll end up gluing that backing plate to the nose cone, to the nose block. So just run it around the backing plate, pop your nose cone into place, nice and snug now. Make sure you just push it down without gluing your fingers to the whole assembly. And once everything's set, I just ran a little bit more of the super glue down the angle of the propeller, and just any bits that just seem to be loose or popping up, just stick a bit more glue on, make sure it's all secure. So once everything's dry, your prop or spinner, as they call it, should whiz around nice and freely, obviously without too much wobbling, if you can achieve that. So that's got us through that one. I hope it's been some help on quite a complicated area of the plane. And we'll move on. Next week we'll be taking a look at the landing gear, the wheels, front and rear wheels, preparing the wire, etc. So until then, thank you for joining me. I'd appreciate a like, and anyone that's not subscribed, if you could do that for me, that'd be great. And we'll hang fire till we meet again next week. So till then, take care, happy flying.